I got this comment about a 4x8 layout and it got me thinking, a 4x8 is the closest thing we have to a standard size of model railroad. But what can you do with a 4x8 foot layout? Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. I'm drinking some Tim Hortons today. Let's talk about some of the coffees you guys are drinking real quick. Ron Crumey is drinking Green Mountain Breakfast Blend. Forever DC302 is drinking Van Hoot Dark Roast. And Froggy Fresh is drinking Bones Coffee. Cheers, guys. If you want to tell me which coffees you are drinking, you can put that in the comments below. Now, I've done an entire video in the past on why the 4x8 is so prevalent in model railroading, and I'll link that video at the end of this video. But what can you do with a 4x8 space in terms of model railroading? And I'm going to be breaking this down into two main areas: scale and scenery. Let's start with scale. You can run trains from O scale and below on a 4x8 with continuous running. Yes, I technically know you can do G scale on there, but you're really not going to get much out of that. So we're just going to talk about O scale and below. Now, looking at HO scale, which is the most popular. So for continuous running, you're going to be looking at the ability to have a maximum of a 22-inch radius track if you're doing continuous running. This will give you an inch on either side of your loop as a little bit of space between the edge of the board and the track. This is good because there are a lot of locomotives that have a minimum operating radius of 22 inches. You can also go for the very common 18-inch radius, but this will limit your locomotive and rolling stock choices. And the smallest of the three most common radii is 15 inches, but that really limits what you can run. Other than this, you can actually do quite a lot in HO scale in a 4x8 space. I've seen yards on a 4x8. I've seen double track mains. Now, O scale is a little bit different, and to be clear, I'm talking about 3-rail O scale. Now, O scale trains that run on 3-rail track sacrifice some realism in their drive systems in order to be able to handle tighter radii. You will hear things like O36 and O31. These are the radii of the O scale track that you are using. These radii are meant to be turns that can fit in a 4x8 space. As you go smaller, you get a lot more options. You can do quite a lot on a 4x8 N-scale layout. You're talking about essentially double the amount of operating space as opposed to HO scale, because N-scale is 54% the size of HO scale. And the smaller scales, like Z scale and on down, they get even more real estate. Okay, so that's scale. Let's talk about scenery. You can do quite a lot on a 4x8 board for scenery. Woodland Scenics actually makes a kit called the Mountain Valley Scenery Kit. I built one of those as a kid, which is a 4x8 HO scale layout kit that gives you all the scenery to do a nice little loop and do a mountain with a tunnel going through it. The thing though you have to consider with a 4x8 is how much scenery do you want. You'll have to do some selective compression with your towns, industries, and scenes. This means you may not be able to build a massive steel foundry with multiple sidings, but you'll be able to put a siding at the edge of your layout that represents it. This is something that you pretty much have to do with any model railroad, but especially with a 4x8 space. The big benefit of using a 4x8 board is that there are a ton of resources devoted to building a layout that size. The 4x8 board has been around a long time, and hundreds, I would actually probably say there's probably over 1,000 different track plans you can do, and they've been designed to fit on this. There's even been entire books written on building a 4x8 model railroad. So to answer this question, there is a ton you can do with a 4x8 in model railroading. There's also a lot of resources that you can get. I'll try to find some and put them in the description of this video. The only limits are the edge of the board and your imagination. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.